Toji Fushiguro is an absolute badass, and as much as people think that he's nothing more than a cold-blooded assassin, I have compiled a short list of moments that have broken the internet, as well as shocked the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbase to its core. As we saw in these moments that he's more than just an assassin, there's more to his character than we know. But let's start off this video with number 5. Oh, and just a quick side note, there will be spoilers from the Gojo flashback arc as well as the Shibuya incident arc, so I'm giving you a spoiler warning now. But carrying on with number 5, when he put up Riko's bounty on the dark web in chapter 67. Toji then revealed in chapter 68 his strategy about tiring out Gojo with all these bounty hunters, as Gojo will continuously use the powers of Limitless and Six Eyes techniques in order to protect Riko from the bounty hunters. And as we see at the end of chapter 70, this strategy worked. Gojo was worn out and caught off guard by Toji, showing that his initial strategy of using all the money he received from the Star Religious Group to pour a bounty on Riko's head was a stroke of genius. Because he knew that Gojo is the big threat. He won't be able to beat him if Gojo is fully rested with 100% of his power ready. It's like Kenjaku in the Shibuya incident arc. He knows he can't defeat Gojo in a straight up fight, so you have to use different tactics in order to defeat Gojo. And let's be real, if you defeat Gojo, then you more or less defeated the Jujutsu sorcerers, as Gojo is not only the leader, but his mere presence alone shifted the balance of power in favor of the Jujutsu sorcerers. So taking him out is the main priority. And Toji understood this. When we see him in chapter 68, we see him wasting time gambling and just chilling around. And it gives you the impression that this guy may not be a serious villain. But then when you see his plan in action, it shows that him playing dumb is a facade, when in fact, he is the guy that showed us how the unbeatable Gojo can be defeated. Number 4, Toji killing himself after meeting Megumi in Shibuya. This is a big moment, as it highlights that Toji isn't as cruel as we think he is, and that he truly does love and care for his son deep down. As we see in chapter 75, he tells Gojo that Megumi will be sold to the Zenin family in a couple years time, and that Gojo can do whatever he wants with this information. It's similar to One Piece, how Gold Roger tells Garp that his son Ace will be born and for Garp to take care of him. It's that level of respect for their greatest rival and knowing the inherent good nature of their rival. Toji knowing the Gojo family and Gojo's nature of protecting a little kid in Riko, as well as Gold Roger seeing a marine in Garp who saves everyday people on a daily basis from evil pirates. Toji and Roger don't care. They are the embodiment of free spirit, which can lead to them doing some messed up things. However, seeing a rival in Gojo and Garp, who are polar opposites to them in that they are responsible, are not reckless with their ridiculous power, this shows that Toji, even though he tried to kill Gojo and almost did end up killing him, he can be humble enough to show respect to his enemies even though he is an assassin by trade. And then when you see in chapter 113, when he asks Megumi his name and Megumi says Fushigoro, Toji smiles and immediately kills himself. Toji is not in the right frame of mind, as he came back to life and is more or less mind controlled, but because he's so strong, he's able to withstand it. But when he sees how strong Megumi has become, especially when they are fighting and Toji looked dead on to stab Megumi, however Megumi managed to dodge the attack with his shadow technique, him seeing this and knowing now that Megumi is a capable fighter in his own right makes him look at Megumi with pride. He can see how strong his son has become. Now he can finally rest as he stabs himself in the head, killing himself. I think this truly does show that Toji is more than just an assassin. There's depth and warmth hiding behind the assassin. He's a character that knows he messed up in his life and that he's not really a good person, but he can have his moments where you can see the goodness in him, as when he shows respect to Gojo and care for Megumi. But now with number 3, let's look at his brutal side when he defeated both Gojo and Geto between chapters 70 and 73. The fanbase was left in absolute shock when we see Toji defeating who at the time and even now in present time in the story, despite Kenjaku taking over Geto's body, were 2 of the most powerful Jujutsu sorcerers in the world. Toji absolutely dominated them both. It wasn't even a fight. Gojo tried, but you can tell he just couldn't keep up with Toji's speed. The physicality in Toji's strength is unreal. It's like as soon as you go in to engage Toji in a physical fistfight, whoever attempts to do that, they end up losing the fight. Which is what happened to both Gojo and Geto. Toji even warns Geto that if he attempts close combat, he will lose the fight, and he did. Toji sliced him as soon as Geto came up close to attack Toji, and he did it so fast Geto couldn't even tell what hit him. Same with Gojo. Gojo couldn't keep up with Toji to begin with, as Toji is a non-cursed user, but the sheer physical attacks when he stabs Gojo through the leg and throat, and the pace he was coming at Gojo with his attacks, just shows that in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, it doesn't matter if you have powers or not. You can still defeat the absolute strongest if you have a plan and are in the peak of your physical strength. But that's so badass, isn't it? He managed to defeat both Gojo and Geto. Like, bro, that's two main characters of the series that he nearly killed in the flashback arc. And speaking of killing, number 2 is Toji killing Dagon in chapter 111 of the Shibuya Incident arc. Dagon is a special graded curse that Nanami, Maki, Naobito, and Megumi had no chance in defeating. They all ganged up on him but still couldn't defeat him, until Toji entered the scene. Toji was resurrected and was basically a mindless zombie at this stage, but that doesn't mean he is weak. Oh no, he absolutely batters Dagon. It's not even a contest. Even Dagon couldn't believe that a human with no cursed energy is able to do the damage he is doing. Even when Dagon uses his water shield to protect himself, Toji easily smashes through it using the cursed tool Playful Cloud. Toji stacks Playful Cloud's sections on top of each other to vault himself into the air directly at Dagon. The curse attempts to pull his guard up, but Toji soars through the air and stabs the staff's pointed end clean through Dagon's face. Despite being stabbed through the head and mounted in midair by his enemy, Dagon refuses to believe it's over. Toji takes the other sharpened end and stabs it through the side of Dagon's face. Then he snaps the chain connecting that part of the staff to the rest, takes both sharpened ends and rapid fire stabs Dagon's face until Dagon dies and the domain is lifted. The guy is a physical powerhouse. Even special graded curses can't match his physical strength. The way Gojo is special thanks to his 6 eyes and limitless, Toji is also special thanks to his beastly physical strength. 18-fingered Sukuna was released right at the end of this chapter, but then in chapter 113, as I mentioned earlier, Toji killed himself after facing off against Megumi. If that didn't happen, we could have had the mouth-watering heavyweight clash of Toji versus Sukuna. That would have been nuts. Who's your money on, guys? Let me know in the comments below who would have won if Toji and Sukuna were to meet and fight in this arc. And finally, the number 1 moment where Toji broke the internet is when he stabs Gojo at the end of chapter 70. Now, don't get me wrong, when Toji did end up defeating Gojo, it was still a shock, but throughout the fight, Toji had the upper hand. Gojo was exhausted. It was even stated by Geto earlier on in the chapter that Gojo hasn't even slept because he was constantly using his limitless techniques, so he's already low on cursed energy. He hasn't slept. He's low on energy, and I've described how much of a physical beast Toji is, so Toji ending up defeating Gojo shouldn't really be that much of a surprise in hindsight. But then when we see Toji stabbing him at the end of the chapter, we didn't expect this to happen, because we felt that the mission was accomplished. They survived the onslaught from the bounty hunters, they arrived in Jujutsu High where they are protected by Master Tengen's barrier, and to be fair, you end up completely forgetting about Toji because the mission did end up being a success. Which is why it's a bigger shock to find out that Toji firstly infiltrated the barrier because he has no cursed energy, and then dealt a lethal blow to Riko's main protector in Gojo. And all of this was all part of Toji's plan, which he executed perfectly. He ended up fulfilling the mission in killing Riko, the star plasma vessel who was meant to merge with Master Tengen. He did that and more. He destroyed Geto's confidence, which then led to Geto into the dark path, and he almost killed Gojo, the first character to ever push Gojo to that extent. Toji is the boogeyman for Jujutsu sorcerers. He is a genius and at the pinnacle of physical strength, which allows him to not only shock us, but the characters of Jujutsu Kaisen themselves, who end up witnessing these incredible moments that Toji delivers in the story.